Okay, back with another quick video. I wanted to do a video on symbolic or energetic language and the significance of it. Okay, in Self to Others, which is the second volume of the True Master series, we get into the practical application of things. Self to Self is more foundational information. So all this information we've been going over about the human psyche and the principles in nature and all that stuff like that, that's more so foundational information. Self to Others is the actual system in itself. So what this system entails, in this we consider frequency. So like we're talking about in Self to Self, and we're talking about in other videos, frequency by definition is the rate in which something repeats. All right. So we can compare that in practical application. Let's say like music, you have 4/4 time, 4 beats per measure, 4/8 time, etc. Things are held together as in like music, like harmony. So the repeated things share some sort of correspondence. What I mean by that, just a practical example of that, let's say like in music, you will have a chord in G major on the bass clef, or you might have a chord in G on the treble clef. Those two chords correspond with each other. They're the same key, but they're just in two different clefs. So there's a correspondence between the performance of specific actions in a specific craft or skill and the interaction of energy or patterns at large. Okay, now what distinguishes this is the relationship. Okay, and what defines the relationship is definitions, right? Okay, as we get a little further, what communicates the definitions is language. Okay, in knowing that things repeat, we endeavor to get ahead of the cycle. Okay, and with specific language, it is harder to see the pattern or recognize the subconscious language of happenings, kind of how we've been talking. If an example of this, if I'm a computer tech or a doctor, then I speak in terminology specific to that profession, right? With broader energetic language, a person can group things together and see the common thread. Because everything is energy, this allows a person to process larger chunks of information faster. So overall, True Master is about attaining goals, but we want to be responsible when we seek to attain our goals. We want to avoid having to repeat the same thing over and over again. So that's what we talked about a little bit earlier in regards to our reasons for doing things. So when I make statements like we build structures to control the energy, now that might sound a little different than what you're normally used to hearing, but this stuff is stuff that you pretty much do every day regardless. But when you change the language, it changes the situation. An example of what I mean by that, in Self to Others, I talk about absorption of energy. That sounds kind of different or funny or whatever, but when's the last time you ate breakfast? When's the last time you ate lunch? That's absorption of energy. When I talk about nullification of a structure, what's that? I'm not familiar with that. Okay, when's the last time you ever been to a funeral? You ever seen a car accident where the car was totaled? Or you just witnessed a nullification of a structure? When I talk about structures, right? You ever set up a workout regimen? You have a schedule for your job? Then that's a structure. Have you ever seen a space station? Humans can't exist in the void of space by themselves, so we create an artificial environment, a structure for us to be able to control that situation. So these are some of the things that I mean. Even in the concept of transforming energy, you might have an argument, and then you will have a rebuttal to that argument and a counter argument. That's transforming energy. So this is really more so of a language change in our relationship to things and our perception of things. And this is what I was talking about when I mentioned you can use a craft to be able to interpret the energy. So that's this video for today, and thanks for tuning in.